The boy's knock carried like a rifle shot through the drafty office. Harlan Pike had been tallying freight by lantern glow, alone with grease and coffee gone bitter. The yard outside was wind and ropes, wagons shoulder to shoulder like tired cattle. When he opened the door, cold came first, then the boy, hat crushed in both hands, eyes too big for that thin face. "Sir?" the child said. "Could you help my ma?" There it was, the sound that turns a man's day into one he remembers. Harlan had heard plenty of trouble, but not often with manners. "Tell it," he said. "She's sick. We've been sleeping in the livery stall. The doctor wants cash." "I got none." The freight boss studied the cracked boots, and the raw hope nodded to the words like a frayed lead rope. "What's your name?" "Evan. You help?" "Yes, sir." "A man's worth shows when there's no one paying him to prove it," Harlan said. "Show me." They crossed the yard past wagons and the cookhouse fire. The livery smelled of old hay and that sweetness of sickness no barn should carry. In the last stall, a woman lay under a horse blanket, back to the wall, face pale as flour. Her hair was tucked ragged, neat where neatness still answered pride. "Ma," the boy said, kneeling. "This is Mr. Pike." Her eyes opened slowly. "We won't be trouble," she whispered before he offered anything. Harlan set his hand to the post and weighed the choices. He ran freight, not charity. But winter always taught the same lesson. A door that opens saves two, those who enter and those who hold it. "You'll come to my yard," he said. "There's a spare bunk and stew enough. Light chores, nothing to break you." Pride flared in her like a match. "We pay our way. You will. Work that doesn't steal your health." He looked at Evan. "You can sweep and mind harness. You listen quick?" "Yes, sir." "Good, I don't ask twice." They moved through the dark, the boy carrying a bundle tied with clothesline, Harlan matching the woman's smaller steps. He led them to the bunkhouse where a spare room stood plain. One iron bed, a stove, a peg rail, a cracked mirror hanging bravely. "Here," he said. "Your guests, but honest guests, pull a little weight. In the mornings I count loads. Afternoons the men come back cutter-tired. If you know nursing, enough to wash a wound and quiet a fever," she said, breath steadier now. "I worked in a boarding house kitchen. Steam's a teacher. That'll do. Men don't argue with what mends them." Evan set the bundle down and stood tall as a colt learning legs. "I can fetch water. I'm good with animals. The stage greys know me by whistle." "Then we're neighbors at work," Harlan said. "Rules are plain. No stealing. No shouting that isn't danger, and you thank the cook even if the beans fight back." The woman's mouth tried a smile and found it. "I'm Nora." Harlan showed the stove its match and warmed the room by degrees. He brought stew and bread that needed forgiving. They ate with the sound of wagons settling and men telling long stories in short sentences through the walls. The boy's hands shook at first, then steadied around the spoon. Color crept into Nora's cheeks like dawn deciding. "Ms. Nora," Harlan said, "if pride bites, remember this. Nobody stands taller for turning away a hand meant honest." "Then I'll take it as honest," she answered. "Tomorrow I can boil linens, keep water clean, and lay out rags." "Fever fears order," he nodded. In work or mercy, measures mattered. A steady hand saved more lives than a fast one swinging wild most days. The wind knuckled the shutters and moved on. Harlan rose. "Sleep. Dawn comes early and stays all day." At the door, Evan touched his sleeve. "Mr. Pike? If the landlord comes looking, what should I say?" "You're under my roof tonight," Harlan said. That's all he needs to hear. After they'd settled, he stepped into the yard. Lanterns made islands on packed dirt. Men moved between them like travelers. Work builds a town. The way it cares for its tired builds a home. He checked a wagon and thought of tomorrow. Grain to haul, a bridge out south, 3 new hands more hungry than useful. Behind him, the bunkhouse went quiet. A bell clanged once, then silence returned, not heavy but good. He breathed the cold and felt, plain as tack in the hand, that the day had turned a hinge. Some doors open on trouble. Some open on family you did not expect. "Let's see if we deserve them," he murmured and banked the coals for morning. Daylight hit the yard like a thrown bucket. Harlan Pike was up before it. Work belongs to those who meet it. Frost silvered the wheel rims. The sky looked thin enough to tear. Evan stood with a broom as tall as he was, sweeping so dust went where he intended. "You ate?" Harlan asked. "Yes, sir." "They'll carry you to noon," Harlan said. "Harness room first. Then water the troughs. Don't run. Steady beats fast once a man gets tired. The spare room door opened. Nora came out with her hair braided back and a clean apron over her dress. "I'll start with boiling water," she said. "If I can claim a table, I can make a corner fit for bandages and bones." "Take the bench by the west window," Harlan said. By the time the sun cleared the livery roof, Nora had a kettle rolling. She pinned cloths, laid out rags, and sorted bottles with the calm of someone who had been frightened yesterday and had chosen not to be today. The first customer limped in before 9, face sheepish. "Rope burn," he said, showing a raw groove across his palm. "Pride is fine if it keeps you clean," Nora said, "but it won't stop rot." She washed the wound, packed it with honey, and bound it firmly. "Don't pick at it." By noon there were 3 more. Split knuckle, a cough that rattled, a knee turned under a sack of barley. She worked without talking when talk would only chase the breath out of men. When she spoke, it was simple. "Sit, breathe, hold this." Harlan watched from the doorway, measuring how the yard took to her. Evan moved like he had always been here. He learned the teams, the roans, the sorrels, the mule with one white ear. He checked cinches, coiled ropes the way Harlan showed him, oiled a bit until they remembered shine. At the pump, he worked till his shoulders burned, then straightened with that boy's grin. When the triangle rang, the stew was thick and the bread stubborn. Harlan sat at a long table. Evan slid opposite. A big teamster named Crowder squinted down the bench. "We're taking in strays now, boss?" "We're taking it into our hands," Harlan said. "Hands, I can see." Crowder's eyes cut to Nora. "But we ain't sick." "As of this minute, you ain't," Harlan said. "You plan to keep it, thank the woman who'll keep you upright when your luck slips." His nose chose that moment to bleed. It poured bright. Men jerked back, laughing before the worry caught up. "Head down," Nora said, calm as Sunday. She pinched the bridge and slid a folded bandage under the nose. "Don't lean back unless you want to swallow your own carelessness." When the bleeding stopped, he dabbed and tipped his head to Nora like a man saluting a flag he hadn't planned on respecting. "Much obliged." "Ma'am," he said. "Keep your pride," she answered, "and your head out of swinging doors." After dinner, the work stretched thin. Harlan kept to numbers because numbers don't lie if you write them down. Numbers stay honest. Still, a man knows when he's added more than grain to his lot. He had taken in 2 souls and dared loose mouths to say otherwise. Mid-afternoon brought a wagon with a wheel bent from a hidden stump. The driver had a shoulder like a rope cut halfway through. Nora saw the droop. "Sit there. Breathe slow." She braced him against the post, turned the arm carefully, and with a quick, sure motion set the joint where it belonged. The man went white, then pink with relief. "Lord," he said, half laughing. "You got a way of finding what's out of place." "Every house needs its things right," she said. Evan looked at Harlan, eyes bright with the kind of surprise that turns into trust. At dusk, Harlan found a slate and a short pencil and set them on the bunkhouse peg. "For your numbers," he told Evan. "A man who can count can bargain, and a man who can bargain is harder to push around." Evan touched the slate like fine china and nodded. "I'll learn it square." Nora mended a torn cuff on Harlan's coat without asking. When he went to hang it, he saw the stitches small and patient. "Thank you," he said. "You opened a door," she replied. "I can close a seam." Night took the yard, and the lanterns lit their islands again. The place felt set to balance itself. Harlan knew better than to trust peace, but a man doesn't spit at it when it visits. "Tomorrow we do it again," he said. "That's the plan," Nora said. "Plans hold if hands hold," Evan added. Harlan allowed himself a smile. "Then let's hold." The wind came with grit enough to sand a man's teeth. Harlan Pike liked the weather that told the truth. He stepped into the yard. The sky was a hard-baked plate that would break before it bent. Evan was at the pump, sleeves rolled. Nora, neat as a ledger, had her kettle going and her corner squared. Basin, rags, a Bible under a table leg to still a wobble. "Listen close," Harlan said. "This place runs because everyone knows where their shadow falls. Evan, keep the harness room honest. Straps hung, buckles oiled, coils tight as a fist. When the bell rings, check the troughs. Nora, you set bones, wash wounds. If a man looks sideways at your orders, send him to me." Nora nodded. "I won't waste your time." "It ain't my time," Harlan said. "It's the day's, and the day never gives change." A wagon rattled in, tongue broken. The driver swore. Harlan crouched, studied the splintered wood. We'll scarf and bolt it. Evan, draw knife in the red box. Evan ran and returned. Harlan shaved the edges, fitted a sister piece, and cinched the bolts. A job that looks right is halfway to holding, he said. The driver grunted thanks and rolled on. By mid-morning, 3 men had come to Nora. A split scalp, a cough begging rest, a finger smashed by a misjudged hammer. She cleaned, wrapped, and scolded with the sort of kindness that sticks. If you can lift a sack, you can lift a cup, she told the coughing one and made him drink water slow as prayer. Word traveled. A town watches first and welcomes second, but when bruises ease and lunch carries more easily, welcome warms itself. Harlan kept half an eye on the lane. He saw the landlord pass at a distance narrow as a hatchet. Men who plan to collect without earning do not look at work. The triangle rang. The crew took benches. Nora ladled stew for those who needed another hand. Crowder, newly respectful, slid his plate for seconds and muttered, "Ma'am." Evan sat straight, slate at his elbow with careful figures. 16 collars, 12 traces, 5 spare hames, 3 missing rivets circled. Harlan tapped the slate. That list can argue for itself. After we eat, we'll find those rivets. Sir, Evan said, pride tucked small. Through the afternoon, the yard found rhythm. Evan whistled the grays to their places, and they answered. Nora's corner smelled of boiled cloth and pennyroyal. Harlan checked loads and made hard choices. Near dusk, a hard test arrived. A boy from the far edge of town, cheeks streaked, hauling his little sister blazing with fever. Their mother scrubbed at the boarding house and sent them because someone said a woman at the freight yard knew Heat's language. Nora met them before they formed words. Bench, she said, hand to the girl's brow. Evan stoked the stove, Mr. Pike, water and vinegar. Crowder, ice from the hotel run. No one argued. Proper orders are relief, not insult. Harlan moved fast as when a team breaks. The girl's eyes rolled. Breath came in hot little yaps. Nora worked cool and exact. Clothes to temples and wrists, drops to tongue, short words thrown like ropes to keep the child from running too far inside. Stay with me, she said. Here's my voice. Here's the world. It's waiting for you. The fever fought, then sagged the way a river takes its banks after rain. The child's breath lengthened. The boy cried without shame. Nora's shoulders eased only when the danger shut its own door. The mother arrived near dark, apron damp. She took her girl in both hands and looked at Nora in gratitude that didn't need words. Pay what you can with your good name, Nora said softly. Keep her out of drafts. The woman promised everything people promise when given back what they feared they'd lost. She left carrying quiet instead of panic. Supper felt different, not louder, deeper. The cook set a jar of peach preserves by Nora's place. Crowder told a poor joke and earned a laugh. Evan slid the slate to Harlan, now with 2 new lines. Rivets found. Bit ring polished. Harlan set a small oilstone by the slate. For edges, he said. Keep tools honest and the world offends you less. Nora poured the first coffee and handed it to him. For decisions, she said. Keep men honest and the world hurts them less. He took the cup and felt something settle. Good work is a bridge. Sometimes it lands on a shore you didn't expect. When the lamps were out and the stars stacked the sky, Harlan walked the wagons, touching wheels like counting beads. The yard breathed evenly. He looked back at the bunkhouse window where a yellow square promised warmth and thought, tomorrow we'll ask more. We'll answer well. Dawn broke with the sound of boots, not words. Harlan Pike set coffee and watched the yard wake. Breath plumed from horses. In the spare room, Nora tied her hair while Evan worked figures on the slate, tongue at the corner of his mouth. Quiet mornings tell a man who he is. Harlan liked the kind that asked patience. How's the breath? He asked. Even, she said. Evan lifted the slate. 18 collars, 12 traces, 5 spare hames, 2 curry combs to buy if we can. Need argues better than want, Harlan said. We'll see what money listens. He stepped outside. The day held stillness. Nora joined him with a tin cup. This place has a rhythm, she said. Men carry their hurt like tools. They set it down when work needs both hands. That's decent as music, Harlan said. He walked the wagons and let the quiet do its work. Quiet earns courage. Work remembers. He remembered a winter trail where men had bickered themselves thin. He had learned then that silence full of care could feed a crew. By noon, the yard had eased into a calm that meant the work fit the day. Nora's corner showed boiled linen drying on a cord. Evan's harness wall hung square and true. Crowder came by with a swing that said he liked being alive. "You hear about the social?" Crowder asked. "Tonight at the Grange. Fiddles, pies, boys trying not to step on new boots. Box supper to patch the school roof." Harlan nodded. "We haul boards. They keep the rain off children. Seems even." Crowder scratched at a nick on his jaw. "Folks will be there who haven't set foot in this yard except to borrow a team and forget thanks. Good time to take the air. Good time for the town to see who's pulling." "Tell the men they can go after chores," Harlan said. "Work first. Late afternoon put a dust plume on the road." The landlord rode through, slick hat, slick smile, measuring the place as if it were already his. He didn't dismount. He never did know where labor made the ground honest. "You got my tenants," he called. Harlan let the words hang. "I have guests in hands," he said. "Two who earn square. Trespass is trespass, and hospitality is mine to grant," Harlan said. "Come tomorrow with the law and we'll read what it says." The grin thinned. "I'll read it loud," the man said and turned his horse, tail switching dust in a letter no one cared to open. Nora had stepped to the doorway during that exchange, eyes level. She did not ask what it meant. She only said, "I'll boil more water. Trouble makes a man bleed quicker." Harlan watched the road until the rider disappeared. "Some men think a deed puts a fence around mercy," he said. "They forget the ground remembers who mended it." Evening fell clean. Chimneys shone, boots were brushed, and faces took on the look of people deciding to be neighborly. Evan wore a shirt a size too large that had learned his shoulders. Nora put on a shawl the color of creek stones and pinned it with one simple pin. "You aiming to dance?" Crowder asked as they saddled the buckboard. "I aim to stand where I can see," Harlan said. "If a tune catches my feet, that'll be its doing." The Grange Hall threw light into the dark like a good fire. Fiddles sang the door open. Pies made a table into a promise. Mothers watched boys try manners on like new hats. People looked up when Nora stepped in. Some of that look was curiosity, some account-keeping, some welcome. She nodded back as if she had paid with the day's labor and it had been accepted. Harlan stood the way a man stands when he keeps his own company but doesn't mind sharing it. Small things started, a preacher's wife offering coffee, a girl drawing Evan into a circle with a grin that dared him to forget figures, Crowder bragging on Nora's sure hands in a tone that carried. Music looped the room like a lariat that meant no harm. Harlan felt something settle, the town measuring and slow as winter sunlight approving. He watched Nora laugh at a story that would be dull on paper and sweet in memory. He watched Evan win a checker game by seeing one more square than yesterday. He stayed close enough to be useful and far enough to let them be chosen, not claimed. When the box supper started, a little hush came, hopeful. Pies went for high bids when courting needed a way to speak plainly. Harlan kept his hands in his pockets. He had money, but money wasn't the point. Witness was outside, stars climbed. Inside, a tune curled softly. Harlan named the day at last. A place earns its peace by trading fair. Tonight, they were paid in faces softened and doors opening from the inside. He stood easier and waited for what would come next, ready to earn it twice. Trouble showed first in a rope cut clean as a lie. Harlan Pike found the trace on the ground, ends squared where a knife had done what Ware could not. The team stamped and blew, uneasy without purpose. "Who was last on this rig?" he asked. Evan flushed. "Me, sir." "I checked it. It was sound." Harlan crouched, looked closely. "Your eyes told you right this morning. Someone changed the day." He pocketed the cut end. "We'll splice for now. Then we watch." Nora set a kettle and laid her clothes like cards she meant to win. Men worked with their eyes up. By 10, a second thing went wrong. Nails glittered in the gate ruts where no one honest would scatter them. A wheel hissed itself flat in a mile. Harlan sent Crowder with a fresh rim and a warning. "The man who throws nails does not plan to hammer," he said. "He plans to watch." At noon, the deputy came with a paper folded crisp and the landlord riding a smile behind him. "Notice to quit," the deputy read, stiff. "Tenants occupying the livery stall owe arrears. Owner demands return." "They're not in your stall," Harlan said. "They're under my roof, paid in work and thanks." "The paper says what it says," the landlord purred. "They follow me or I bring the court." Nora stood behind Harlan, quiet. Evan's jaw worked, but he kept his tongue. "I'll answer a judge," Harlan said. "I won't answer your shadow." You'll get your say when the law sits. The landlord's eyes weighed the yard like a grocer weighing a loaf he means to pinch. Careful, you don't want to find yourself short of contracts, he said. Accidents make folks skittish. He let the word hang, then rode off. Harland named the play. He doesn't want rent, he told Nora. He wants command. Break a man's word and his trade dies by itself. Then our word must stand like a door, she said. The afternoon brought the third scratch, small, telling. A lantern was set too near the hay. Evan found it and brought it, mouth tight. Good catch, Harlan said. We snuff fires before they think of themselves. He lined the crew by the pump at dusk. We've got a friend who doesn't sign his name, he said. He likes sharp things and shortcuts. From now to sunup, 2 on watch. Lanterns where they belong. Gates latched twice. No man alone, Crowder scowled. You think it's one of ours? Someone knows our steps, Harlan said. If he's a stranger, he's bold. If he's inside, he's lazy. Either way, we make his work hungry, they paired off. Evan took first watch with Harland. Nora boiled coffee and set out bread, the kind of food that waits. Dark came thick. The yard breathed in turns. Coyotes yipped. Why's he after us? Evan asked. Because a steady place makes greedy men feel small, Harlan said. He's not after you or your ma. He's after what it looks like on us when we keep faith. Will we? We will. Near midnight, a shadow moved where no shadow should. Harlan's hand closed on Evan's shoulder once, stay, and he stepped toward the harness room. The door hung open a finger. He eased it wider with a knuckle. A man's back filled the space, hunched at the bench, hands busy at straps. Harlan made no speech. He caught the wrist, turned it, and set the stranger's cheek to the plank in one motion learned long ago from a ranger captain who did not like to talk at night. The knife clattered. The man went limp. Get Crowder, Harlan told Evan. Bring a rope. They tied the fellow to a post and woke the yard. Faces ringed the door, some pale with anger, some with fear, turned useful. Harlan looked him over. A sidewinder of a grin still tried to work. Name? Any you like, he said, then I'll call you a fool. Who paid you? The grin held, but his eyes flicked when Harlan said the landlord's name. A small thing, but enough. We'll walk you to the jail at sunup, Harlan said. Practice your quiet on the way. Nora stepped in with a strip of cloth. Mind if I keep his knife? I've a use for the steel. I know a hinge that squeaks, the men laughed, the kind that breaks fear's grip. The tied man spat and got nothing for it. Harlan faced the crew. Sleep in turns. We'll be ready if he has friends. He set his back to the door and watched the yard return to breathing. The stars felt nearer because men had decided to stand between one another and whatever came. He felt the hinge of the night and set his weight there. Tomorrow, he said to the dark, we hold. Midnight carried a knife between its teeth. The freight yard held its breath. Lanterns cast small islands. Steady. Harland Pike stood with Evan by the harness room where the tied man shifted, even in sleep. Drink, Nora said, passing tin cups. Coffee steadies fear. We move him at first gray, Harlan told the crew. Jail's 2 streets and a promise away. We keep both, Crowder called from the south. Latch sits wrong. Harlan went with Evan. The bar lay properly, but dust showed a careful lift and set. Eyes open, Harlan said. Trouble likes to return to a plate it's licked clean. Leif Storch, wiry and quick, appeared before Harlan could call him. Gate's good, boss. I checked it twice. 3's better, Harlan said. 2 horses stamped. Harlan heard feet where feet shouldn't be. A spark danced near the hay shed, fox bright. Evan grabbed the sand bucket before it caught flame. Nora's bucket followed. Not tonight, she said, calm as rain. 2 figures broke from the alley, fast and sure. One veered for the prisoner, the other for Crowder's jaw. Harlan stepped between and put a shoulder into a ribcage with the blunt truth of oak. Both men hit dirt. The tied man writhed like a worm remembering soil. Boot, Harlan said, and Evan pinned the rope where it wrapped the post. Hold, Harlan added, and no man in that yard mistook the order. Crowder finished his fellow. 1 swing, then a knee to end the argument. The first attacker rolled free and produced a chain. Leif came from behind with a lantern high. I'll get him, Leif said, voice too bright, and swung the light low as if to show the ground. Instead, the flame kissed the rope by the prisoner's wrist. Fire skittered up like gossip. Nora smothered it with her shawl, losing the pin and not caring. If you're helping, she told Leif, do it with water, not wishes. Harlan saw it whole, Leif's too fast arrival, the poor aim of a seasoned hand. the way his gaze touched the gate more than the fight. The instinct that had kept him alive before he owned a ledger moved first. He caught Leif's wrist, turned it until sense replaced pride. "Pocket," he said. Coins spilled, gleam enough to name the landlord without letters. Leif sagged. "I was only to lift the latch and free the rope when backs were turned," he muttered. "Nothing rough." He said it'd just be a fright. "Fright is what cowards call harm before it lands," Harland answered. "You'll stand with the deputy, same as your friend." The chain man lunged again. Crowder met him and took the edge across his forearm. He grunted. Blood slicked quickly. Nora's hand was already on him, cloth tight.
"Hold still," she said.
"You'll keep the arm." Neighbors woke. A dog barked. A window rose. Harland stripped the chain, flipped the man into dust, and planted a knee where it persuaded best. "We're done," he told him, not loud, just final. Silence fell like good snow. "Rope them both," Harland said. "Leif, too." He faced the thin hand. "You had work and a bunk and traded them for coin. A man can start again after a mistake if he names it." Leif's answer was small. "I'll walk," he said. "I'll say my part to the law." "You'll carry the lantern," Harland said, pushing it at him. "Hold it honest for once." They reset the gate, checked every spark twice. Nora washed Crowder's arm in vinegar and wrapped it snugly. Crowder went sheepish. "Didn't duck fast enough." "Duck fast next time," she replied. False dawn bled east. Shapes returned. Harland set the procession. Leif first with the lamp, then the two bound men, then Crowder in two hands, Evan stepping where his boot prints could teach courage later, and Nora at the rear. They moved through streets that blinked awake. At the jail door, the deputy set down his coffee. "Busy night," he said. "Too busy for honest men," Harland answered. "Two for your cells, one for his conscience. The paper you read yesterday will have company. You'll swear it?" Before breakfast, he turned to Leif. "You leave my yard quiet after you sign. Find work where you can stand up straight. If you come back before you're worth that, you'll trip over your own shame." Leif swallowed and nodded. "I'll try," he said. "Trying builds less than doing," Harland returned. "But it's a start." They stepped into the new day. The yard waited, listening. A place like theirs could take a bruise. It could not take a lie. Harland felt the ache in his shoulder and welcomed it the way a smith welcomes heat, necessary to shape what's meant to last. "Home," he said. "We've work to finish before the sun claims the credit." Dawn struck like a hammer on an anvil. No time for talk. Harland Pike had the crew lined up before the sun cleared the mill roof. What took months to build could burn in minutes if a fool got his wish. "We set the wagons in a crescent," he said. "Tongues out, chains locked. Nora, buckets by the pump, quilt soaked. Evan, the bell if you see riders." Evan nodded. Crowder rolled his wrapped arm. "I can lift with the other." "You can think with both," Nora said, pressing bread into his good hand. "Bravery without sense is just noise." They moved like a clock they had wound themselves. Wheels chalked. Barrels spaced as brakes. The cook dragged a wet canvas. The bell spoke once. Dust rose on the south road. 4 riders and a wagon piled with brush, a pan of coals winking. "Hold steady," Harland said. "No shouting. Work when the moment asks." The burning wagon came hard. Behind it, the landlord rode upright, confident as a receipt. Harland raised his hand. Evan dropped the outer gate pin. The crescent became a throat to the pump where water waited. "Bring it in," Harland murmured. "Let fire come where fire dies." The wagon rattled through the mouth and hit the first turn. Harland and Crowder heaved sand. Grit fell like rain. Nora's crew threw quilts. Flames hissed and bled steam. The driver whipped the team. Harland stepped for the off-horse, caught the bridle, and spoke low in a language older than money. The animal listened. The team checked. The brush sagged into wet. A rider cursed and swung a club. Crowder took it on his shoulder and introduced the man to the wagon side in one clean motion. The landlord tried to wheel past the line, found chains, tongues, and the arithmetic of angles. He yanked short and shouted for the deputy who was not there. "You're trespassing," he barked. "I'm working," Harland said. "You brought heat to a place that feeds your town. Those are my tenants." "Those are my hands," Harland returned. On the far side, a rider spurred at Evan. The boy did not run. He pulled the bell and let the sound stand between him and fear. Men came like the bell had hands. The horse shied at the clangor. Nora stepped cool and sure, flung a wet quilt high. It slapped the rider's face with steam and blame. He clawed it clear and found Crowder there. The fight took one breath. The last rider tried the alley where Leif had once lifted the latch. He found it barred and braced. Harland met him, took his wrist the way Knight had taught him, and the club fell honest enough to end talk. The landlord saw his morning go thin. He reached into his coat, not for a gun, he hired men for that, but for papers waved like magic. "Deputy," he called again, as if saying a word could summon backbone. The deputy came at a trot, face red from running. He had heard the bell and decided the badge was worth its weight. He saw smoke dying, brush steaming, men standing where they had chosen to stand. "What's this?" he asked. "Arson dressed as eviction," Harland said. "We turned it into laundry. These three rode with fire. The coin in Leif Storch's pocket sang your landlord's name last night." The deputy's gaze moved from the wagon to the bruise on Crowder's sleeve to the landlord's papers fluttering like lost birds. "I'll be hearing statements," he said. "You'll be making an arrest," Harland answered. "The rest can be words later." The landlord tried a smile on the deputy the way a gambler tries a marked card. "Don't be hasty. Boys get excited. Property disputes on. Do not ride with fire," the deputy finished. "You'll swear it?" "I'll swear we put out what came to burn us," Harland said. "And I'll swear whose dust led it here." A minute held like a hill before the drop. Then the deputy nodded once, the kind of nod a man gives when he decides to be equal to his badge. "Hand over your reins," he told the landlord. Silence gathered. The landlord's mouth opened, then he understood it had run out of company. He dismounted slowly. Nora brought a rope. "Tie him gently," she told the deputy. Shame burns hotter than hemp. Work resumed, hoses shut, quilts wrung, sand swept. Evan stood with both hands on the bell and looked at Harland like a boy studying a map that finally showed home. "We'll cool the ashes and count our tools," Harland said. "Then we'll eat." He looked at Nora. "You kept the living where they belong," he said. "So did you," she answered. "We'll do it again at noon." "If noon asks," Harland said. "And it will." The smoke lifted in strips that told where the night had lain. Harland Pike walked the yard with slow boots and eyes that measured. Steam curled from soaked quilts. Sand dulled the last hiss. Men spoke low, using words that had been earned. The deputy had taken the landlord and his riders toward the jail, papers heavier than their ink. "Count what we kept," Harland said. Evan read from the slate, thumb black with chalk. "All teams sound. 2 halters cut replaced. 3 quilts ruined. 1 forearm sliced, Crowder. 1 bruise to pride, General." Crowder rolled his bandage and grinned. "It'll make a story if I tell it short." "Tell the part with the wet quilt," Nora said, tying new cloth on a line. That did the handsomest work of the night. She checked Crowder's wrap and rinsed the chain scrape from a rider turned witness. Leif Storch leaned at the gate with his hat crushed, waiting for a verdict men give to themselves first. "You spoke your piece?" Harland asked. Leif's voice came rough. Deputy took it down. "I named the coin in the hand that dropped it. I'll leave by sundown. You'll make restitution before you go," Harland said. "Quilts burned, rope charred, sleep stolen, square it as you can. Leave a receipt worth more than paper." Leif nodded, ashamed and grateful mixed like dust and rain. "I'll work through noon," he said. "Do that," Harland answered. "And when you can look men in the eye again, come by with the truth. We trade for that." The yard exhaled. Places survive on rules as much as boards and feed. Nora handed Leif a broom. He took it like a second chance. By mid-morning, order set. Hands breathed between tasks. Wagons rolled. The bell hung quietly but was ready. Evan's figures sharpened. Harland let the hum lie on his bones and then faced what had waited in the quiet between dangers. He found Nora at the west window, steam fogging the glass till the world looked kinder. "Miss Nora," he said, hat in his hands like a man at a courthouse. "I've got words that sound plain and heavy. They need to say while the ash still tells the truth." She turned, eyes steady. "Say them." "I can offer a warm bunk and safe corners," he said. "But what I mean is a home. One with my name on the door for you and Evan if you'll have it. Not charity. A promise to carry together." Nora's mouth softened the way dawn does to a hard ridge. "I was a wife to a man eaten by fever and debt," she said. "I learned a roof is a thing and a vow is a place. Evan needs both. So do I." "I won't crowd you," Harland said. "Take the time you need. My word waits." "Your word has already been working," she answered. "It fed us before it asked for pay. If you mean to put your last name on our door, put your first name on our mornings. Harlan felt his chest hitch like a colt at first saddle. Then say it plain with me. Nora, will you take my name and let me see you never have to ask for shelter again? She smiled, the true kind that holds. Yes, Harlan, she said. On the day the judge lets you speak, it's proper. Until then, we'll hold the shape of it and do the work that proves it. Evan stood in the doorway with the broom he'd forgotten, eyes wide as prairie noon. Does it mean? It means when a man at the gate asks whose we are, Nora said. We'll answer together. Harlan put a hand on the boy's shoulder. You'll have my name to lean on and push against, he said. Both kinds are needed, Evan breathed easier. I can carry more water, he managed. You can carry a key, Harlan said. We'll have one made. Outside, the cook banged a lid. Life resumed the noise of tools and plans. Word would travel, but let it. Truth grows when aired. At noon, the deputy returned, humble. The judge will hear it tomorrow, he said. Charges set. Your statement's held. And the license, well, it can be ready. Nora set out 3 cups and poured coffee as if it were already Sunday. We'll be there, Harlan said. We've got work this afternoon and a promise to keep after. The deputy grinned into his cup. Town talks differently when a fire fails, he said. Quieter, kinder. Kinder is a choice, Nora said. We'll keep making it. Harlan looked across the yard that had tried to be a battlefield and failed because decent people stood their ground. He thought of a porch lamp that would turn night into direction. We'll light it, he said, and meant more than light. The judge's gavel sounded like a fence post driven true. Harlan Pike stood straight. The room smelled of paper and coal smoke. Nora sat with Evan. The deputy waited with hat in hand. The landlord had no dust to ride and no men to lengthen his shadow. State your part, the judge said. The deputy told it plain. Nails in the ruts, a rope cut, a wagon pushed burning, 3 riders bound, Leif Storch's confession, the coin whose shine pointed to the payer. Leif named himself a fool and the landlord a buyer of foolishness. The landlord tried smoking. Property dispute and tempers, I meant to remove my tenants as the law reads. Did the law tell you to bring fire? The judge asked. I did not light it, he said. You brought it, the judge answered. And hired hands to carry it, that is enough. He wrote with a heavy pen. Bail is set. Your eviction paper is void. These people are not in your stall, and no law grants you reach inside another man's roof. The judge turned to Harlan. You run a yard that feeds this town. You'll swear to statements now and at trial. Anything else? Harlan looked at Nora and Evan. Yes, Your Honor. I aim to put them under my name. The deputy said the license could be ready. Paper is the easy part, the judge said. He nodded to the clerk. Bring the book. Nora rose. We'll take the paper now, she said, and the vows this evening if the Grange will have us. The Grange will have you, the deputy said. The pages whispered as the clerk wrote. Names gathered on the line the way a fence gathers a pasture, quietly defining a place. Harlan Pike, the judge said, and Nora. Nora Pike, she answered, sure as hammer on spike. And Evan, too. He'll wear it by use, the judge said. He slid the license across. Make it true by how you live. Back in the yard, work greeted them like a friend who had kept watch. Men braced the gate. Crowder cut planks. Leif, released to labor until the train, hauled sand and did not ask to be thanked. We'll need a beam, Evan said, pointing at the bunkhouse porch. If you're to hang a lamp, it needs a truss under it. Good eye, Harlan said. Go with Crowder to the mill. Buy soundwood, not showy. They went with the wagon. Nora boiled water and tied a fresh cloth along the line. Between tasks, she folded the license and tucked it in her apron like a seed. Neighbors came, the preacher's wife with candles, the smith with an iron bracket, the cook with a jar of peaches saved. You'll need light, the smith said. We'll need witnesses, Nora answered. You've earned both, he said. By mid-afternoon the gate stood truer, hinges speaking a single clean note. Ruined quilts found a second life as padding under harness racks. New rope coiled where the old had known flame. Evan returned with the beam, proud with honest weight in his hands. Harlan planned an edge smooth. Straight edges make straight days, he said. Together they shouldered it into place and pegged it solid. The sun bent toward evening. Word came from the grange. A corner cleared, a fiddle strung, coffee ready. Harland washed and put on the coat Nora had mended. They went as a small procession. Men in clean shirts, Nora with her shawl repinned, Evan carrying the lamp the smith had polished till it remembered stars. The hall brightened when they entered. Voices softened. Evan held the lamp as if warming a promise the town could see that now. The judge came without his bench. Vows don't need furniture, he said. Only ears. He spoke briefly. Do you, Harlan Pike, promise to keep this woman and her boy under your name, with room for their pride and work for their hands? I do, Harlan said. And do you, Nora Pike, promise to take this name and keep it clean, to heal what breaks and share what stands? I do, she said. And do you, Evan Pike, promise to learn what it asks and carry it forward? I do, he said. Then you are what you claim, the judge finished. Let the town remember. Crowder whooped once and cut it short. The room filled with the sound a home makes when it understands itself. Boots scuffing, hands meeting, a fiddle finding a tune that knew their steps already. The cook opened the peaches. The deputy smiled like a man who had done right and found it worth the effort. Harland looked at Nora as if seeing a ridge he meant to ride every day and never own, only honor. Home? She asked. Home, he said. We'll hang the lamp. The porch lamp bit the dark and held it. They hung it at sundown, Harland on the ladder, Evan with nails, Nora steadying the beam. When the wick caught, a small cheer rose like a creek when ice lets go. Light tells the road where home is, Nora said. And warns off what doesn't belong, Crowder added. Neighbors lingered. The smith tightened the bracket. The preacher's wife set a pie on the rail. Leif Storch waited at the gate, hat low. You squared what you owed, Harlan told him. The rest is between you and mornings. I'll take honest work west, Leif said. If I come back, it'll be with a story I ain't ashamed to tell. Then go with your back straight, Harlan said. Leif touched his brim and walked off. They turned to work that declared a place will last, sweeping sand, hanging fresh rope, oiling what ran hot. Evan chalked new tallies and drew a lamp in the corner. Looks like a star learned manners, Crowder said. It looks like a promise a boy can find in a storm, Harland answered. Nora kept the west window, not from worry but habit. She boiled cloth not needed, set aside salves not used, then washed and stood with hands open. A woman trained by scarcity trusts readiness more than rest. Tonight she tried rest and found it friendly. The deputy came near full dark. Judge set the trial, he said. Men talk like men again. The landlord will have his day, but not his crowd. Crowds are just neighbors with their ears turned, Nora said. Turn them right and they remember themselves. The deputy tipped his hat. Supper spread on benches. The cook redeemed his beans with cornbread that broke sweetened coffee that tasted like something forgiven. Evan ate steadily. He laughed at a poor joke and didn't check for permission. Tomorrow we haul grain, Harlan said when the plates were near clean. Wheels have to sing more than we do. They'll sing, Evan promised. They'll sing, Nora echoed, and we'll keep step. We'll mend the gate, plane the beam true, and set a nail where talk used to be. After the dishes, the yard settled quietly. Horses shifted inside. A late freight clinked a trace and then agreed with the night. Harlan walked around the fence and came back. Nora took the first chair. Evan sat on the steps with his slate. Harlan sat. A man should know how to be still where he works. You ever think about before? Evan asked. Only to carry it better, Harlan said. We don't owe yesterday our fear. We owe it to our learning. Nora touched the boy's shoulder. We pay joy forward, she said. That's how interest grows in a decent town. Then I'll keep paying, Evan said, and traced the new surname once. A coyote called far off. From town came a faint fiddle, the kind that loosens backs after hard days. The lamp hummed, an engine turning darkness into direction. Harland thought of trails and the split in a man where loneliness can live beside belonging. He had been good at first. Tonight he accepted the second without bargaining. The night kept its side of the bargain. Some things you ride toward, he said. Some things you stand and let come to you. This, he waved at the porch and the people under it, is the second kind. And if danger comes again? Nora asked. We'll make room for it to fail, he said. Same as today. Crowder rose and went to the bunkhouse. The deputy left with a last look at the lamp. The yard found sleep one lantern at a time. Harlan banked the stove and came back. Evan had nodded off, slate slipping. Harlan took it gently, set it on the rail, and tucked the boy's blanket around him. You'll make a good father, Nora said. I'll make mistakes. Good fathers admit those first, she answered, and made room for his hand in hers. Night settled, and the lamp burned the way a promise burns, quiet, steady, stubborn. In years to come, folks would say the pike lamp never went out, and that men aimed straight because of it. They would say a yard that chose decency over fear turned a town, a woman's hand saved more than flesh, and a boy's figures measured a future before he could shave. That's what they would say. What mattered was truer. A door opened and kept opening. A name made room for two more, and a man who had learned hard countries now learned home. This story made history in the simplest way history prefers, by keeping its word. If you'd like more clean frontier romances like this, follow and share this episode with a friend who keeps a porch lamp burning.